YouTube, it's JP Dunphy, your BMW genius here at West German BMW. In today's video, I'm going to go over some of the questions that we've been getting about our service intervals and the ones you get in your car. Now, some people will realize that as they drive, you'll notice that your service intervals may be pretty consistent, or they seem to be like, well, I'm just getting them more and more frequently. So the real question that you probably want to know the answer to is, how does it know? Well, the interval calculator / computer, it is all programmed in there. It works one of two ways. So if you tend to drive very little, it's going to just make sure you do your yearly fluid check, things like brake fluid, transmission fluid, whenever that comes up. I believe that's every 2 years. I'll have to double check on that for you, but it's basically just most fluids are yearly check, or they're mileage based. So the average one is about 7,500 miles. Now, if you drive more aggressively, it's going to say, hey, you should probably change that every 5,000 miles, because there's a sensor that sees exactly how intense the wear is in the oil, how many particulates get into it. And if it sees more particulates in there than expected for the mileage, it's going to adjust the interval for you. So the cars today are extremely smart. They know exactly when they need oil changes. They know exactly how hard you drive, and based on that, can change the intervals to meet whatever the need is. With that, you may notice something else that tends to happen is when you turn on the car, you get this little guy right here. Now you see how it says it's due. The point of it being due is not that it is actually due today. It just lets you know, hey, around 10,000 miles, this is going to be due. If it's not 10,000 miles, you'll also see that right after that, there is a date. That basically means that it's going to be this or that, just like how on all warranties, you get something like, say, 3 years, 36,000 miles. It means whether you have either up to 3 years or up to 36,000 miles before you need or lose coverage. That's the same way that these guys work. So it's basically you have up to this mileage or up to this date. So if you get past that mileage, it's going to turn red, saying that something is now overdue, versus something that is due or coming up. In the slightly older cars, the difference between that was if you got something that was red, saying that service was overdue. Red means overdue. Orange, amber is more of, it just means it's coming up, it's going to be due, or you should do it really soon. So that's basically how that works. Another way you can check exactly what is coming up and when is needed, if you go to car and then to vehicle status and scroll over to the right to services required, this right here will give you everything that you need. So for instance, engine oil, that's going to be due by November of this year, or in 10,000 miles, whichever comes first. Vehicle inspection and emissions inspection will be November of this year. Brake fluid won't need to be changed until August 2023. And then vehicle check will be due in 2024 is not 2 years, JP. Get your head together. In 3 years, so in 3 years or 40,000 miles, there's going to be a full vehicle check to kind of do a full visual inspection of the car, just to make sure everything is wearing properly and that nothing is going too intensely. Now, something else to note, I did just make another video about if you live in New Jersey or Maryland instead of Pennsylvania, or vice versa. If you bought a car in New Jersey and now live in Pennsylvania, or bought a car in Maryland and live in Pennsylvania, you'll need to change your service center, which will change the actual intervals on here. So right now, these intervals that you're seeing are based on Pennsylvania driving and Pennsylvania state laws. That's why the vehicle inspection and emissions inspection is every year, because that's how we do it in Pennsylvania. New Jersey and Maryland, they have longer intervals, so they would change that. So with that, if you go over to here, it's up or down. I can't remember exactly where it goes, but I'll link that little video right here for you, so that way you can check that out too if you did have a question about that. Anyway, so back to here. Something else that is worth noting is you can also check your oil level. This will only work as long as you've been driving. It works by two things. So you have your oil level up top. It tells you it's okay or saying it's low. And now the oil level, the oil engine measurement, you would need to actually be driving engine running at operating temperature, and after it is up to temperature, you can start measurement. It'll take about 2 minutes to fully measure and give you an actual level. So if you're really curious about that, you can get that there. And of course, lastly, if you do have any control messages, that will come up in here. This is another spot where you will see, hey, you're overdue. You have something coming up, something that's going to be due very soon, or you passed the due for this, get it done as soon as possible. That's basically the quickest overview of all that. So with that, thanks so much for joining me. Have a great rest of your day. If you do have any questions, leave them in the comments below. I'll get to them as soon as possible, or we can send you up with our service advisors. All of them are available by calling the dealership, and you can also ask them the same questions, but this should be able to cover the general questions that tend to come in for everyone. And with that, have a great rest of your day. Thanks for being with us here at West German BMW. Bye-bye.